Here, and for this episode, I have a guest by the name of Dave Jordan. He's from Australia, and he's got a Shopify store that we're going to do a little conversation around. Good to meet you, Dave.
You too, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about your Shopify store and the brand that you have?
Yep. So the brand's called ClubTech Golf. Initially, so I've had the business for coming up 2 years in July. So initially, the business itself was purely retail, and part of the idea of buying the business was, to build out that online presence and sort of an e-commerce platform. So initially, they had sort of more a catalog sort of site just to display what they had in store, which was on BigCommerce. So just decided just more from an ease of development and more so, I guess, the shopping cart experience. I was keen to move across to Shopify. So been on Shopify probably since September 21. September 22. No, 21, that's right. It feels like it's a lifetime in this business, but it's only been, not even 2 years. So played around with a few different skins and that type of thing, and then sort of needed a bit of advice. So went hunting on podcasts and came across your podcast, and sort of from there, you convinced me to move across to Flex, which I'm loving. But yeah, I just sort of, I don't know, there's a lot of things. Like my background was predominantly digital product in the wagering, online wagering space. So I kind of know good UX when I see it, but the e-commerce UX is sort of a thing that's new to me, that I'm sort of learning. So I want to build the shop out. I think there's a bit of a competitive advantage. A lot of the online platforms in Australia, like e-commerce golf store platforms, are sort of I don't reckon they look great. So I reckon there's a bit of juice in the lemon there we could squeeze out by having, probably the best, or what I want to get to is having the best online golf store in Australia from a UX perspective, and just ease of use for our customers, and just trying to remove all those breakage points that we're sort of stumbling across now.
Yeah. And when you say UX, do you want to define what UX means to you?
So just the ease of use. So basically, if a customer wants to find a specific item, it's easy to find, it's easy to add to the cart. There's a lot of information about it. It's laid out well. It's easy to read. It's not clogged with too much information. There's good imagery, and the sort of, they're educated on the product, and the product, is it suitable to their needs or to their golf game, that type of thing. I mean, one thing we try to do in the store, and I'd like to sort of bring it across online as well, is when someone comes into the store, our aim is that when they walk out of the store, that they're better equipped to hit the golf course than they were when they walked in, whether that be a simple repair, a little bit of advice, or, just some comfortable clothing.
Yep. And I like the fact that your definition of UX included things like ability to find products, have confidence in what they're buying, not just, I want a great looking website, because I actually think, how your website looks is not as important as the information that people get from that website. So I like your definition of UX. Now, and your goal, as you said, the best online golf store in Australia, correct?
Yeah.
How far away do you think you are from that goal today?
I think a lot of our customer feedback is that they like the site, and they like the ease of use. Putting my own critical sort of hat on, I think we're probably 50% of the way of where I'd like to be. But realistically, we might be a bit closer than that.
And are you measuring that success in your competition by just looking at your website? Are you measuring it by how high you show up in Google search? Are you measuring it by revenue and sales? What do you think that metric is?
Yeah, so I guess it's tricky because we don't have sort of the breadth of product that some of our competitors do. Some of the products, say for example Nike, we've got one competitor in Australia that has the exclusive on Nike apparel and footwear, so we can't stock Nike, for example. So it's a bit tricky in that regard, but I'm basically just looking at incremental growth, how the business is growing. It's tricky with the Google bits because, if we're not pumping a lot of money into Google ads and that type of thing, which we're kind of, we play in that space, but we're not at the point where we can compete with the bigger guys on ad spend. So yeah, just looking at how we're growing as a business, and then just sort of trying to dig into, if there's any page abandonments, trying to just rack my brain as to why they might be abandoning. Is it just they just landed there from Facebook and they just clicked on it because they're bored, or they're on the train to work, that type of thing. So I guess that's a space that's sort of new to me as well, the marketing space. I'm sort of like growing my toolkit, I suppose, but there's a hell of a lot to learn. I never really had any sort of, I dealt with the marketing teams a lot when I was in the wagering game. But yeah, I don't have a marketing background, so I'm trying to learn that on the fly by just reading as much as I can and sort of a lot of trial and error.
Yeah. And what I liked is you had this North Star, this goal of, number one online store for golf in Australia. I like that, but you have to be able to measure that.
Yeah.
Right. So I would recommend that you think about how you're going to measure that. And that could be revenue, some market share stuff, but it has to be something you can actually measure and is not just, subjective, right? You're talking about dead ends and stuff like that. Those are all means to an end. The end is improving your revenue and your sales. Yeah. Another way to measure it is maybe, you won't know their revenue numbers, so you can't get into that detail, but you could say, well, I want to be in the top 5 search results for these 100 keyword phrases or something like that. And use that as your yardstick that you're measuring against, because that's a competitive metric. It's not just you measuring against yourself, it's you measuring yourself against your competitors. Yeah,
I found SEMrush is pretty handy for that type of thing, just obviously. And I try to extrapolate out sort of our conversion rates and then look at potentially what, our competitors are doing in terms of turnover and that type of thing. So yeah, I try to benchmark it that way. I guess one of the hard bits is finding tools to help. We're only on the Shopify Advanced subscription at the moment, so the reporting probably isn't, without having seen the fully fledged Shopify platforms. I don't know what the reporting is behind the hood. But I'm assuming that a lot of it's bespoke and customized. You can just pretty much pull out any data you want. So having to do it myself into Google Sheets and chop up the data and look at it that way, it's a bit tricky, but it's things that I'm learning, and it's stuff that we got sharked a bit by an SEO company early doors, and that was just due to my sort of inexperience with SEO and not understanding what I actually really wanted. So I'm trying to take the approach where I learn everything from the ground up myself, so that I know when someone's talking to me about something, I can actually have the conversation and ask relevant questions, as opposed to just going and putting trust in them.
Can you tell me a little bit about because you mentioned this in the email thread we had earlier, can you tell me a little bit about your SEO nightmare?
Yeah, so basically a lot of it was sort of fell onto me. I knew that we needed to rank for certain, for keywords, and I was basically just trying to get traffic. We had a website where we had no digital presence at all. We might get a couple of page views a day type thing. So I knew I needed to get traffic. What I didn't know was probably the depth, and even just little things like, having the page title right, having everything matching up, so that, and that's where SEMrush is perfect. Like if we had new products on, I'll add them on, and it's almost like a safety net. I can run the site order and it'll tell me what I've stuffed up. But yeah, what I didn't know was the keyword terms that I really needed to be trying to rank for. They pretty much just cherry picked, some low hanging fruit keywords and said, oh yeah, we've got your growth, but it wasn't actually converting to revenue. It was just people looking at the page, and then it was probably having a negative impact where they look at the page and go, that's rubbish, and move on.
So you hired an SEO firm, and they measured their success by where you ranked on the Google results page for keyword phrases that may or may not have been important for your business.
Yeah. And I, at the time of hiring them, I didn't know enough about what keywords I really needed to be going after. Like it was just sort of, like maybe golf club repairs or best golf drivers Brisbane. Like we're in Melbourne, which Brisbane's a couple hours away on a plane. So just things like that. I think they just went through and said, all right, these are how can we demonstrate growth here by clicks. Looked at keywords that didn't have much. They were easy to sort of to compete for, and just basically went from there. And it was just so we're getting probably a lot of junk traffic, really. I mean, there was they said they'd get more traffic, and they did, but it actually wasn't traffic that we could convert to sales.
Yeah, and I would assume that what you've learned from that is the contract you need to have with SEO firms if you use them in the future. And I say if because I actually don't recommend them, but if you did, it would be a revenue-based contract, not a click-based contract.
Yeah, well, I've got a friend of mine who's got a digital marketing business in Brisbane, and I spoke to him, and he had a contact. We had a chat, and he actually does. So they used to do like an SEO foundations package.
Yep.
And they converted that into, rather than them doing it, they educate the person. So that was huge. Yeah, that sort of laid a platform for me, and I sort of just time wise, I haven't been able to get back into it as much as I'd like to, but having that foundation and a basic sort of a beginner to intermediate understanding of SEO and how to actually go about it was huge. So we've seen a lot of growth from that. Just like like I was ranking for like a not even brand names. Like it was like I said, best golf drivers Brisbane, that type of thing. Like where I really want to be ranking for TaylorMade Stealth 2 driver, that type of thing. Like I want to start ranking for products as opposed to just generic sort of terms that people probably aren't really going to search for all that often.
Yeah, and when I look at ClubTech Golf on your, because you have a physical store, but leave that aside for a second. On your website, what's the total number of people working on your online business?
You're talking to him.
Exactly, right? And that's the truth for, probably 90% of Shopify stores. There's a lot of big ones, but percentage-wise, there's very few big ones. Most people are like you, or there's one or two people involved, and you have to become a jack of all trades and wear all these different hats. And I like your philosophy of, I want to get smart enough in a topic before I outsource it in the future. Yes. That's a good best practice. Another thing I'd recommend is focus on one thing at a time from a customer acquisition standpoint, whether it be SEO or, Facebook ads or Google ads or social or influencers, whatever you're going to do, just do one at a time. And then when you're good at it, then move on to the next one, because every single one of them is hard. This world of online shopping is not easy at all, right? The myths of, put up a store and you're going to make money, that was very true in, 2010, but not in 2023. It's a much more competitive space. So just take it one at a time and really go, deep and focus on it instead of trying to do 5 things at once, because it's just too hard to learn all of those things at the same time. On ClubTech Golf, your brand, do you want to explain to me what your philosophy is behind your brand? Or, if you had to describe the brand to me, what would it be?
So the brand name itself was inherited from the founder of the business. So business has been going as a physical store for 30 years. Started in a guy's garage. He just started building clubs, sort of custom clubs for people when it wasn't really a thing. Now, pretty much, we recommend every person that has a golf club in their hand has been fitted for that club. Basically started in a garage, and then it grew legs, and people were sort of coming in the store saying, "Oh, do you have this brand? Do you have that brand?" So then they sort of branched out into becoming a retail store, and then was sold probably about 11 years ago to the second owners, who then we purchased the business off. So I guess the brand itself, that's part of a little bit of the dilemma as well, and we're looking at sort of rebranding. We just had a few for them. Just a few issues with actually changing the name. More not around what name we're going to choose, but just some sort of things in the background that sort of prevented us from rebranding. Like I was hoping to do it in February this year, and then a few things happened that I won't go into, but there's sort of a bit of a personal nature in relation to people around the business. So Yeah, because a lot of people will come in and they'll go, "Oh, I just assume you just did golf club repairs. I didn't know that you had, a fully, um, branched out retail store. I didn't know you had golf simulators. I didn't know that you do golf lessons, that type of thing." So I think looking forward, the name probably limits us a bit, particularly in the e-commerce space. But yeah, so it was basically, ClubTech, like golf. It was ClubTech golf. So it was golf club technical work, I suppose, is the way you'd sort of look at it from the top down view. Hopefully, I've explained that. Probably felt like I was going around about in a little bit of a circle there, but yeah.
Well, I have two points there. The first one is you have not defined your brand yet, and I'm going to go back to that in a second. All right. The second one is I bet you have a lot bigger fish to fry than changing the name of your brand. Right. You probably have to do more important things like figure out customer acquisition strategies and all that kind of stuff. If there's hassles behind changing the name of the brand, then I wouldn't change the name.
Yeah.
No, very few brands. So one example was Motorola, right? Motorola, the name of Motorola came from, they were a record player that worked inside your automobile in the 50s, right? Now, how does that brand become one of the top phone brands, a decade or two ago? They no longer are, but they were a very big brand for a while there. Like the brand name isn't as important as the brand, if that makes sense, right?
Yep.
So my only feedback there is I wouldn't worry about rebranding right now if, I think you have other things to work on. But I would, if I was you, recommend that you be able to explain what your brand is, right?
Yep.
So if you were in an elevator with somebody and you got, 5 seconds, 10 seconds to explain what ClubTech Golf is, what would you say?
We're a retail and online golf store specializing in sales, repairs. That's tricky because it'll be like what am I focusing on, and all my thought has been on the e-commerce part. That's where I see a lot of the growth. The retail will continue to grow. So starting again, I basically tell people we're an online golf store. We're specializing in all the major brands at a good price, and we have a retail store specializing in repairs, lessons, golf simulation. So kind of it's tricky because especially if you're trying to another down in 10 seconds.
Yeah, well, and we're going to do this a couple more times. So let's just focus on online for a second. And what I heard you say, it's an online golf store.
Yep.
All right. So what about your online golf store is different than others? What's your difference? What's your special sauce? Why should I come to you versus your competitors?
Yeah, exactly. That's the part that I've trouble sort of explaining. Just that having that sort of, I guess, selling myself and selling the brand or selling anything is always something that I've had, problems with, I suppose. So yeah.
Well, I want to say this, right? It shows.
Yeah.
Your homepage right now does not explain why I should be here.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why I want to have this conversation before we dig into the website is why should people come to ClubTech Golf? What is the difference versus the competition? And why are you special? Right? And not you personally, but the brand.
The brand. Yeah. Sort of. Yeah. I guess well, to be honest with you, looking at the website, and this is why we're having the conversation really is I don't know how to show people, from a digital perspective why they should. Yeah. And part of that is and I think we spoke about it I mentioned it in the email was, I think the homepage is a massive weakness. Even just having playing around with banner carousels with Inflex without having any sort of custom design done, it's really hard to pop it out. I want to pop the products out, but I also want to be able to pop out who we are, what we do, and like you said, why should people shop with us? So that's sort of, if I can nut that from a visual perspective, I think it'll help.
Well, to do it from a visual perspective, you have to be able to put it into
You need to
words first, right?
Exactly.
So let me ask you a couple questions there. Just guess, how many online Australian golf stores are there? How many competitors do you have?
It's getting bigger because a lot of sort of pro shops and local golf courses are starting to play in the space as well. But from sort of, if we break them into tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, I'd reckon there'd be 50 at least.
Okay.
There'd be
how many of that 50 have a retail component?
With golf, the majority of them would have to, because you need to have a bricks and mortar store to be able to get the accounts.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many of those?
Sorry.
How many of those do repairs?
Less. Like, if we're talking, say 50, but probably, and 50 is an arbitrary number. I'd say 20, if that.
Okay. And are there any products that you have that are exclusive to you?
No.
Are there any services that you have that are exclusive to you?
No.
Okay. So what I'm hearing, right, and this is the challenge that you have, and the answer to the questions that I was asking, like, you couldn't answer them because right now there's your brand is a commodity, right? I could go and start a store competing with yours, or anybody else could, right, kind of thing. And what you have right now is a store that lists a whole bunch of products. Now, I didn't realize that you just said it, but to be able to list those products, you need to have a retail store to get the relationship with the suppliers, and so you have there is a little defensible moat, but it's not unique to you. Anybody with a physical store can do that kind of thing. So now you have to think about, how are you going to turn your website and your business into a brand, and what happens when you turn it into a brand, you start to differentiate yourself, right? One of the ways you could do that is, like I did a podcast episode in the past with Ryan McCarthy, one of the co-founders of Rhino Power, and they do sports nutrition supplements. And their differentiator was the other Ryan. There's two Ryans who started the company. The other Ryan is a really famous motocross professional, and his nickname was Rhino, as that was his driving style. So he became the sports nutrition company for motocross, right? The products, they will tell you their products were very special. I'm not disagreeing with that, but you could buy these products anywhere. And what they did is they focused on an audience, right? And that's what their brand was about, was we're motocross, we're for the motocross space kind of thing. So in your space, obviously one of the things you're already doing is Australia, because it's very hard to ship outside and all that kind of stuff. But in your brand, you might want to think about, maybe part of your brand is you're the local friendly golf pro or golf technician or whatever, right? And you're going to take that knowledge of, so a golf pro and a golf technician, I know nothing about golf. I played golf once in my life, and it was an awful experience for me, right? But I'm going to assume that a golf pro is a player and a golf technician is a guy who fixes the clubs and sizes them for you, kind of thing. And maybe you want to become like the golf technician type of thing. So you have a smart, passionate voice that's an expert and shares a wealth of information and experience and expertise to help you make the right decision in picking the right set of clubs, or the right, gloves, or the right ball for your golf play, right? So maybe it's a very technical, and I'm using the word technical because it's already in your ClubTech, right? And if I'm wrong in any of my assumptions, we can change that, of course. But I also see that you guys do repairs and you have lessons. So it seems to me like maybe your brand is about information about golf, and not about the best courses to play at, although that might be it. But it might be about the best equipment, and the best equipment for your personal situation, right? Maybe, like I actually did a search on your website, golf clubs for tall people, because I'm 6'3", and I literally found no results for golf clubs for tall people, right? And that's the kind of stuff where maybe your brand is about information and expertise in golf, and then we use that to sell people golf clubs and golf clothing and apparel and those kind of things. But I think you need to have that differentiator, right? And that needs to be your stake in the ground. Here's what we are, right? And it could be something like, golf tech, ClubTech Golf the best, golf advice from experts for Australians or something like that. But you have to define what that is. And then once you define it, just like we talked about before, having a North Star, then you can start, building on that. If you don't know what your differentiator is going to be, then you can't start building that differentiator out. Right? Now, if it becomes you're going to be the source of expert technical information, then that's going to drive your site development to have more technical resources and information for people. Right? If it's going to be, we're going to give you the best guides and advice on how to play the 9th hole on this specific golf course, then you go down a different route of information, right? But I would think that, defining that and coming up with that is going to help you decide then what you do with your website and how you build it out.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And like that's sort of something that we pretty much just bought the business and jumped straight into it and then sort of not kick those sorts of things to the curb, but never really sat down and had a discussion and conversation about who we are, what do we do, what do we want to achieve, that type of thing. I mean, we've not, obviously, revenue is the key driver to all businesses. But yeah, like you said, I mean, that sort of had some, warm and fuzzy sort of aspirations, which we could probably bake into it as well. But, as coming up against sort of, the bigger stores, what we want to be able to do is, like what you're just talking about, being knowledgeable, being friendly, being approachable, giving that sort of high level of service, whether it be
absolutely
online shipping an order within, if I'm when the ding goes on the point of sale, I'll get out of the chair straight away, pack it, have the shipping label, have it ready to go, that type of thing. So being a bit agile as a small business, you can do that. Like, we don't have a huge distribution center, and everything. Most of the stock that we carry is upstairs, ready to, in boxes ready to roll. So yeah,
I could not agree more that and this is for any small Shopify store, which is most of the people listening to my podcast, right? I fully believe that your strongest asset is the personalities and the people at the company, and making that human to human connection, right? People aren't, shopping on Nike or Amazon. If they're on your store, they had those choices. They knew those brands existed. They didn't go there, right? They're on your store because they didn't want to go there. So, a lot of small stores try to seem bigger than they are. And I tell them to do the exact opposite. Like, I'm a one-person Shopify agency, right? I don't know how many one-person Shopify agencies there are out there. There's not many. But all the small ones try to seem bigger. And I always try to embrace the fact that I'm a small one, right? And you should do the same thing. Like, yes, you're talking to Dave, the owner, right? My email signature doesn't say CEO; it says owner. Scott Austin, owner. Because to me, owner is more personal than CEO. And if I'm CEO of a one-person company, I'm trying to seem bigger than I actually am. My only point: embrace the small and embrace the personal, right?
Yes.
So for you, an about page is absolutely essential, and it should show photos of every single employee at the company, all 3 of them or 4 of them, whatever there is in the retail side of the business also, so people can see the faces. And then, it'll say Dave, owner, and when you actually get on the phone or send an email, they'll go, that's the actual owner. Oh my God, look how special I am, right? And you're laughing because I'm laughing too about that, but that's how people think. Right.
Yes.
They feel special when the owner is actually talking to them. Right. I don't know if you guys have it in Australia, but here in the United States, we have this kind of a meme where, people are dissatisfied. Like, I want to speak to your manager. Right. People always want to go up a level, but the owner's the top, and people know I'm talking to the owner. Right. Kind of thing. So, but making your brand about people, I think, would be very valuable for you, right? And it's the knowledge and the passion that those people bring to this space that's going to give your brand an extra level of service above and beyond what your competition can do.
Yeah, and that sort of that rings true. Like we have a lot of people come in, they go, I'd rather support local, I'd rather buy off someone small as opposed to the big fish, because they get that personal approach or that personal interaction, and that's something the business has always had, and that's something that I've always tried to embrace. And like I was saying before, like the warm and fuzzy aspirations is that people want to come here, they'll have a laugh, they'll get good service, and they'll tell their friends. and they'll
Yep.
feel special about it. Like like they just get treated like a number. Like, you know,
Absolutely.
with all the big companies, it's like, oh yeah, I'm just a number to you, and that type of thing. It's sort of a lot of companies advertise the fact that you're not just a number here, and I guess they do that everywhere. But without hearing sort of ads from other countries, it's definitely something that people would sort of harp on here big time.
Well, and that's why the about page becomes so essential, right?
Yep.
And I always tell my clients that on the about page, I want to see three things. One is faces of the actual people working there. Two is dogs, and three is babies, right? Because those three things make you very human and very approachable, right? Anybody who sees, your about page and there's you holding your children or your nephew, whatever, or petting a dog, you seem way more friendly and approachable and nice than Dave, the CEO, in his corporate attire with a fake background kind of photo, right? But the about page is one piece of that brand, right? I'm going back to the brand. I think you need to define what your brand is, and you could use some adjectives for that. You don't have to have the perfect elevator pitch because you're not doing a presentation, to an external, company for funding or anything like that. But you should have in your mind, here's how we're differentiated. Point 1, point 2, point 3, and here's what our tone or our voice sounds like. Point 1, point 2, point 3, and then you permeate that through everything that you do. Right now, I want to. Now that we've had that conversation, turn into your website and just start, giving you feedback as I look at it. And I want to start with the most important page, and that's the product page, right? A lot of people start with the home page and work down, and I think it's the exact opposite. You start with the product page and you work up. It's the most important page. Now, and in your email, you had said to me you were happy with your product pages, right? Now, what I'm going to do here is on a random product page that I just opened up, I'm going to highlight your copy and I'm going to search for it. And I'm going to see that you pulled your product descriptions straight off of the Adidas product feed because it's the exact same copy that they have. And it's the exact same photos that they have, correct?
Yeah.
Now, this is where, right? So everybody, all your competition's doing the exact same thing, right? So if someone was to search for, and I can't do an Australian search here, but I'm going to do an American search for the product title, right? And what I'll probably see are this is perfect. So in my Google merchant feed, these are the Google merchant ads up at the top, right? They're all the exact same model from Adidas, right? And it's this really fit looking guy, and you can tell it's the same guy, even though there's a couple different, colors and stuff like that. It's the same person or almost the same. So they're all using Adidas product photography, right? So one of the ways you get to differentiate is if you don't do that. And they're all using they're probably all using the same Adidas product description. And once again, you could differentiate by not doing that. And that's a lot of work, right? But that work will help you stand out from your competition. Because right now, if I search for this, Adidas Prisma print polo shirt, the one person who did their own photo would stand out more, right? Because these all look the same, right? And if someone was to do something a little bit different, they would stand out. And I have one client who he's in a space where everybody uses the product photography from the manufacturer, and we actually came up with this strategy. Like, all right, let's go shoot your own photography. And he's going and shooting his own photography. I don't provide photography services, but he's actually creating his own product photography to stand out from the competition and using models because everybody's product photos are of the products, not of the product in use with people kind of thing. So it's just a great way to differentiate and stand out from competition. You're selling a commodity product that everybody else is selling. Maybe you could sell it better by having your own photography. So people that, look like they're on the golf course in Australia or something, or the famous Australian golf course background or something like that to show it in place, and maybe having a description that goes back to your brand voice that we talked about when you come up with those 3 bullet points about, hey, we're going to be this, this, or this in our brand, then actually writing product descriptions in your voice, with maybe a little more Australian bend to it than the very generic English given to you by Adidas. So on your product pages, and this is hard, right? Creating your own content, absolutely hard to do. So you'd want to start with your best-selling products or the products that you want to be your best-selling, but it's a way for you to stand out from your competition when people start searching for things out there on the web, right? Because as you saw when I did the search for your product, content here, right? The first site that came up was Adidas, right? And I'm looking here in the United States, then Golf HQ, then Nordstrom, then Golf Discount, then Best Selling Golf, Big Apple Buddy, Golf 360. They're all using the exact same content, and the exact same photos. So if you're gonna stand out in your marketplace, one way to do that is with your own brand's authentic content, because it will show. People will sense that difference.
Yeah. So, sorry.
Go ahead.
So having, say, a product title. So the main reason why I was using the particularly the product title, that Adidas use, is if people search golf polo or Adidas golf polo, that what I didn't want to do was negatively affect SEO by having a different title to what everyone else was doing.
Yeah, I'm not saying change the title. Maybe you would, but I wouldn't, because you do want people to know that this is this standard product that's out there. I would differentiate in the copy and the photography, and there's no size chart on this page. You could have an infographic. So maybe shooting product photography with models, that's really hard, and I totally get, because it is. But maybe you could make an infographic, right, that shows this product right here, this golf shirt that I'm looking at, and you just there's these bullet points of 88% recycled polyester, highly breathable, engineered pattern, right? You could turn that into the infographic also, right? So you could just take the existing photo and the existing copy and make an infographic out of it. And then, you see this on Amazon stores a lot, right? Where people are making infographics that are very visual and point out the different things. And it's just unique content that nobody else has, and it's a way for you to differentiate. Now, and I'm a big fan on your product page of having as much information as possible about your product. Like I said, there's no size. Oh, there is a size chart right here. Sorry, I was wrong about that.
That's part of a UX battle as well. Like, I reckon that looks pretty ordinary. I just one of those things that I'll solve at some point. But I just think it's pretty looking.
And it's hard to get a good size chart, right? What's really helpful though is when you click on a small and you show a model who's wearing a small shirt. And if someone clicks on an extra large, you show a model wearing an extra large shirt. And same thing with double extra large. And you actually say, right, and you've probably seen this on other websites where they say, the male model is 6'1", weighs 212 pounds. The female model is 5'6", that kind of stuff. Those are really valuable pieces of information to help people figure out the sizing. Once again, it's hard, but you'll see a lot of those brands that are really competitive are doing that type of stuff, where they have multiple models and different. So it's not just a perfect looking person in every single shot, right? And people can say, oh, that's, I'm that size. That's what that's going to look like on me, kind of thing. Because this guy that Adidas has, the man is just in fantastic shape, and none of us look like that. So, and I like the fact that you have your shipping and return policy on the page and into that accordion. I love that. Now you don't have any reviews yet for this product. Do you have a lot of reviews in your store? You're using Judge Me, it looks like.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, so it's a fairly recent thing. We've probably got a couple of hundred.
Yep.
Probably heading towards 300 reviews. One thing I'm looking at doing it as well is building out a loyalty program. So I've got the pieces in place. We're just going to do the final touches on it. But part of that reward program will be product reviews. So hopefully with the aim to drive up more product reviews.
How many people are repeat customers today?
Probably 15 or probably 10%, 10, 15%.
And what percentage of golfers do you think are purchasing from your site today? Golfers in Australia.
it'd be a very small amount. It'd be a couple of percent, I'd reckon.
Okay, so do you think you'd get more lift by focusing on increasing your new customers or increasing the revenue from your existing customers?
But the aim has been to get more people in the top of the funnel.
Yeah. So the point being, loyalty programs are great, but if I was you, I'd be focusing on customer acquisition strategies first, not on retention strategies, right?
I guess I was trying to catch both fish in the barrel by trying to get more repeat business and grow loyalty that way. But also, yeah, I was basically trying to, fire two bullets out of the same gun, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm a very linear and binary kind of person. So for me, a program is either for acquisition or for retention. There is overlap, I get that, but to me, loyalty is a retention program. And my guess is you probably need to be focused more on customer acquisition than on retention right now. Like, doing the SEO, figuring out your Google merchant feed if you haven't done that yet, then going on to Google AdWords and then on Facebook ads and all those things. I'd focus all your energy on those things before I would on a loyalty program from where it looks like your business is at. But you're closer to it. And if your business judgment says, no, it's time to focus on loyalty, great, then go ahead and do that.
I guess part of the strategy was I'm looking at sort of product parity as well. What my competitors have that I don't have that can sort of help me bridge the gap.
Yeah, but your goal here is to be different and stand out, not to be checkbox competitive, right? Just because they have a loyalty program doesn't mean that that's what making people buy from them. What you want to do is differentiate yourself by having the best expert advice or whatever it is that your brand is going to stand for, right? And then using that to draw people in, not doing what everybody else is doing, because that's not going to differentiate you, right?
Yeah, good point.
So is there things on your product page so we're talking about customer reviews. In Judge Me, you can turn off the ability to write a review on the product page, and that will hide this whole element until you have a review. And I would recommend that. I don't like showing no reviews. And I also don't like soliciting reviews on the website. I only like soliciting them through emails from actual purchasers, right? Like, you don't want me going in and writing a review right now on your website, right? So just turn that functionality off in Judge Me settings, and then it'll hide this section from showing. Now, down here, you're using the Flex Themes automatic. You may also like section. And, if you've listened to my podcast at any length, I hate product cross-selling unless it's specific to the products and the space that you're in. And yours right now, I would not turn on the you may also like functionality in your store. I would turn it off. There may be times where you're like, you want to show the full collection. Maybe Adidas has matching pants that go with this shirt. Then I would, build a custom section out that does that. Not because what's showing right now on this golf shirt product page I'm on is 4 other golf shirts, right? And that's just if you needed that there, that's just a sign that you're not doing good merchandising in your store. And a great example of that is everybody looks at Amazon and goes, Amazon's recommending all these other products on this page, right? Therefore, I should do that because Amazon's the #1 retailer in the world. But the problem is Amazon does that because it does an awful job in letting customers be confident that they're making the right choice. Because Amazon has so many products, they can't be knowledgeable in every single one of them. They do not have a good funnel. It's actually very, very flat. And that's why they're cross-promoting everything all the time. The exact opposite, if your brand is about expertise and knowledge in this space, you're going to drive people down a funnel so that when they get to a specific product, you should have high confidence they're on the right product. Therefore, you don't need to be cross-merchandising.
To be brutally honest, it was a part of it was to pad the page out.
Well, that's never try to look bigger than you need to be, right? And that's from the page length, from the company size. We're all guilty of padding, and it's actually the worst thing ever and also we're looking at this on a desktop, right? The second you look at this on a mobile phone, this page is not too short. Every product page on the mobile phone is too long. And I'm not saying we should shorten them. My only point is we don't need to add gratuitous content because there's plenty There's plenty of content already. Is there any other content you've thought about adding to your product pages?
Just looking at this particular example, probably not on some of the, like the golf club, like the drivers and irons. I'd like to sort of put a bit more information on who they're best suited for, because obviously the manufacturer, this is the best club ever. I sort of want to drill down, and that's sort of like I've got a list of, and I write notes down, but I just haven't. I'm trying to build that out so I can add it to all the product pages at once. Probably not the right strategy. I probably should be doing it as I think of it and as the new product rolls in. But yeah, so looking at the product and the actual target audience for that product, or who will get the best benefit out of it, which ties into, like I was saying earlier, when someone walks through the door of the store, that they walk out better equipped than when they walked in, whether it be knowledge or it be equipment.
Yeah. So that makes total sense to me. And that means, so I'm going to step up a level. So we started off in product page. Now we're going to go up to collection page, right? And what most online stores do is list products on their website. What they don't do is move people down a funnel in making them, making a decision at a time, being confident in the decision they made, educated in the decision they made, so that by the time they get to the product page, they're completely confident they're picking the right thing, right? 98% of stores are guilty of that, right? It's a very common thing. And your store is a list of products, right? But what you need to do is turn that into a decision-making engine, right? There's a number of ways that we can do that, and we'll talk about a couple of them. So here I am on the drivers page. I'm just going to go up to clubs and see what that looks like. So clubs is your collection, correct? Yeah, golf clubs. When I clicked on drivers, was that that's a separate collection? How did you get that under the clubs thing?
In the when you go into the navigation, you just drop it as like a sub nav of
okay. Yeah. That's how it did it. Okay, that's nice. So here on the drivers page that I'm on, you have on your page, like 20 or so drivers, and every single one of them every single one but one has a sticker on it. So Flex Theme has these things called sticker. You have a sticker for sold out, new, sale, and every single one except for one. So it's one of those things where if everything's special, nothing is special, right? Is the way I think about it, right? So for instance, you're showing it's for sale for $800, but its list price is $1,000. Therefore, it looks like it's on sale for $200. That's a strategy. I'm not saying that's the wrong thing to do, but when I see stores doing that, I turn off the sale sticker. If everything's on sale, I turn off the sale sticker just to reduce that noise on this page, right?
Yeah. The new badge there is frustrating because I've got that new category on the homepage, and then it automatically adds the new badge to everything. Like I sort of want to differentiate from this is a brand new product to this is like new in store. Like, do you know what I mean? Like it's
So the way that the way that stickers work inside the Flex theme, right, is if on the sales sticker, if you have both prices listed, the price and compare at price, it automatically makes the sales sticker. On the new, if it's in the new collection, it'll show that new thing. So you might want to change your collection definition to, instead of it being all products sorted by date, which is my guess is the way you've done it, you could just have the new collection be anything that is tagged new, and only tag, and that means you have to manually go in every month or two and change out your tags. But that way you can manage that new, so it is more exclusive and special, right? And actually has meaning to it.
Yep. So getting rid of the sale badge, because I think it's important to show the full it works different here than in America. So I think you've got I think it's called an MSR, like a
MSRP, yeah.
Yeah. So we don't have that. We've got a manufacturer's recommended retail, and then whatever you sell it at. Like there's no. I think the MSPR is like
MSR, manufacturer suggested retail price, MSRP.
Yeah. And that's like the floor, whereas the recommended retail is the ceiling. So and that I think it's a consumer law thing. So we don't have anything in our consumer law that says this is the the least or the lowest amount you can sell it for, which I think that's what the MSPR.
Well, in America, that's MAP price is the floor. So MSRP is the high price that no one charges, and then there's a MAP price below that, and no one shows the MAP price on the website. But if you wanted to show an MSRP, right, it's another thing. So on this page here, right, this is a decision-making page, a collection page, and right now this doesn't help me make decisions. Right, right now this shows me all my choices, but doesn't help me pick the one I want. Right, so you've got already the concept of you want some filters. So you got a filter for brand and one for left hand and right hand. Right now you're using the Flex theme and using the Flex themes filters, and I assume you're also using the Shopify app for filters, whatever they call that, the custom filter app, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to just use the one, and the filters. I think I mentioned in the original email, the filters are a bit of a bane at the moment. Like I don't like. I basically want to be able to filter on what I want to filter on, not what I can filter on, based on the filtering, the inbuilt filtering.
What you want is the Boost app, Boost, and they just changed the name of it. It used to be called Product and Search, Boost Product and Search filters, and now it's called AI Product and Search or something like that. But any store that needs filters, I always add the Boost app to it. And it costs like $50 a month. So it's not a cheap app, but it's also not that expensive. If filtering and collections are important to you, and they are in your store, I fully believe, you absolutely want that app. It's a no-brainer, right? Yeah. Now, the nice thing with the Boost guys is they have fantastic customer support. And they'll do any customizations you want really well. I find them to be one of the two best customer support teams in the Shopify ecosystem. But you definitely want that app, and it'll give you the ability to have filters for anything you want, and you can have different filters per different page. So your clubs could have different filters than your gloves, kind of thing. So it's very, very useful. It takes a little work to set up, but it's not that hard, and it makes your site way more powerful, way more powerful. So, but here on your pages, so I would turn reviews off on collection pages because, and I would say that's almost every Shopify store. And the reason for that is most Shopify stores don't have reviews that are 1.5 star, right? Because if you have a 1.5 star product in your store, you're probably taking it out of your store. Right? Amazon sells everything, so they show reviews for everything, and some of those reviews are actually negative, right? But in your store, all your reviews are going to be positive because you're going to take out all your crappy products out of the store. So adding reviews to a collection page does not help you make a decision on which product to pick. It helps you make a decision when you're on the product page because you can read the comments and see why people like that shirt. But review stars on a collection page in a Shopify store is just extra noise, right? And you can see here, for some reason, you're showing reviews twice on this page. You're going to get rid of this element here and this element here, and that just cleans up the page. So what you want to be thinking about is how do you remove elements from your collection page so that what you're showing in your collection page is the differences between your products, right? So I noticed in one of these the description was this is a woman's driver. Are drivers? Are there unisex drivers and then men's drivers and women's drivers?
There's probably not unisex. There's probably the driver itself. So that the head on that driver is the same as the head on the male driver. It's just the shaft is different because like a lady will swing the club a bit slower than a man typically. But you'll get, I mean, as people get older, they sort of, they end up in a flex of shaft that would, suit their swing speed. So
yep.
The only difference there is the shaft and the colors of the head is just sort of, the manufacturers made it more, the color palettes probably to suit a female audience.
Yep. And those just become things you add to your filter, right? Male, female, unisex, and all that kind of stuff. Your filter app will help this page a lot, right? So yeah, I think that's enough feedback for your collection page for now. So now I'm going to go up to the top of your nav and I'm going to click on clubs. And your clubs nav has subcategories or sub-nav elements of drivers, woods, hybrids, irons, wedges, putters, sets, and kids, right? So when I click on clubs, I see a list of products, a collection page. And it has, total aside, I'm not a fan of infinite scroll on the collection pages. And the reason I don't like it is you don't know when you're done until you're done.
Yeah.
Right. If I open up a collection page and I see that there's 47 pages of results, I'm like, I got to filter this. Right. There's too many. But if I open it up, there's 2, maybe I don't need to filter because I can look at 2 pages on my own. So I like the showing the page numbers in the flex setting, not the load more. The load more sounds sexy, like an infinite scroll, like an Instagram feed, but we're not Instagram here. We're the exact opposite. We don't want people scrolling forever. So I would just change that out. But on this page here, I don't know how many products I've got listed now, but I probably have quite a few. And is someone actually going to buy from this page products?
Excuse me. Most likely not. And
exactly, because you don't know enough information yet to give them information. So here's what I always do in stores like this, right? Where the top level nav has sub nav elements. I make this clubs page not go to a clubs collection. I make it go to a page, and that page lists out all my sub collections, right? Just like you're doing on the home page right now, right? So you've got this element here. Now I don't like the way that this is laid out. You've got this list of collections with the text over the image, so that the image gets a grayed out effect, a black transparency effect. I'm just not a fan of that. I would actually set this up in Flex that it shows this content underneath. And that way it's just easier to see things. But you could do a page that looks like this with each of the nav elements being one of these sub nav elements under the clubs. So instead of clicking on the clubs page and I see all couple hundred clubs, some of them are woods, some are irons, and some are for kids. Instead, I would see irons, wedges, kids, and just make that a nav element. And that's also really nice on mobile, where on mobile with your hamburger nav, people have to know over to the right, there's the arrow. When the hamburger nav comes down, there's an arrow to the right. They got to click over to that right to have it expand and see the sub nav elements. Not everybody's going to understand that. So if they do get to the hamburger and click on clubs, and then they can see all the options underneath. And it's a much better experience on mobile if you do that kind of stuff. Now, your taxonomy here, I call taxonomy the way you structure your products with data so that you can create collections and people can navigate around them. It seems like you put, some good thought into what are your top level collections, and that they're good sets. Like nobody's going to get confused what's under clubs, balls, bags, buggies, clothing. It looks like you've got good sets already with your navigation. Do your customers get confused when buy your collections, or are those good for them?
I haven't had any feedback that they do. And I guess it's probably the tricky bit is working out why they're using search. Are they using search because the collections are bad, or are they using search because they're just used to, Google's basically ingrained everyone just to search for stuff rather than browse?
There's no right or wrong there, right? Mm-hmm. Anybody who wants to browse, let them browse. Anybody who wants to search, let them search. And the fact that you've got the big search box front and center on your page, I like that a lot. So now I'm going back to the drivers page. So I'm 6'3", I've never played golf before. Which one of these clubs should I buy?
The one that suits you best. Typically with a driver, you can extend them. Most people would probably look to shorten them to get a bit more control. It's more so with like an iron set, you'd need customization if you're sort of over sort of the 5'11" mark. Depending on how long your arms are, you'd look at sort of having them lengthened, and if you're sort of less than sort of 5'7", you'd look at getting them shortened.
No, you're focusing too much on my height here. So I'm a new golf player.
Yep.
And I am 6'3". Which of these drivers should I buy?
There's nothing specific height-wise, but yeah.
Is there something specific for a new golfer?
There is, yeah. But I guess that's where getting fitted is quite important when choosing a golf club, because there's a lot of different, for example, if you look at those Cobra drivers there's three different models. There's a Max, an LS, and a just the straight arrow jet. The Max will give you more forgiveness. The LS will give you less spin. So if you're a better golfer, typically you might be looking for the LS driver as opposed to the Max. So there's a content piece for us.
Exactly. And what this page is not doing is helping me pick which one's right for me. The only help I get is left and right-handed. So I'm right-handed, right? Which probably means all these clubs work for me still, unless there's one that's just left-handed. But, is there a good, better, best? And if there is, how do you bring that across here, right?
Yeah.
You could actually have 3 collections: good drivers, better drivers, best drivers. And maybe it's just the more money you spend, the better you're going to be at golf kind of thing, right? And I don't know. But what you need to figure out is how people make their decision on their golf clubs and put that knowledge into your shopping experience. Right now, there's no knowledge in the shopping experience on how people shop for clubs.
Yeah. And that, I guess, where one advantage there would be that a lot of people they'll do their own research. They'll go and look at, YouTube reviews, and they'll look at blog posts and that type of thing. And then they'll come to an e-commerce store and make the transaction. So bringing them along on that journey would obviously.
Absolutely. So what I like to do in a lot of stores, one of my favorite pieces of merchandising content is a buyer's guide. And you could have, a buyer's guide for drivers, a buyer's guide for clubs or for wedges, for irons and all this kind of stuff, for shoes and, buggy, every one of these, right? And a lot of people make their buyer's guides and they put them off as a blog article. I actually like to make my buyer's guide as part of the shopping experience. And you might, sometimes I do them side by side. I mean, I've done stores where literally there's 2 ways to navigate. One is, a normal collection structure, and the other is the buyer's guide. And they walk you through the exact same thing. One just gives you information about the choices you're making each step you make. And the other one assumes you know those things already, kind of thing. But that's enriching your shopping experience. So instead of putting it off into a blog article, which no one who comes to your site, if they come looking for golf clubs, they're not going to go off to look for the golf, the buyer's guide off in the blog articles. You've got to put that into your shopping experience. So I think as part of your brand of, personal, experts, friendly, advice giving, all that kind of stuff, incorporating more information into your shopping experience in what you call, what you're using as collections today, right? Making that shopping experience more advice giving and buyer's guides. I've even done ones before where we actually, so I have one client and he sells 8 of this one type of product, and you could pick any one of those 8, right? There's not much difference between them. So which one should you pick today, right? And what we actually did is we came up with the concept of staff picks. And we said, and these things are cold therapy machines. So they have a pad for your knee and a pad for your shoulder, a pad for your elbow. And the store went and looked at them all, the staff, and they're like, this one's got the best knee pad. This one's got the best elbow pad. This one's got the best shoulder pad. So then we said, this one is our staff pick for shoulders. This one is our staff pick for knee. This was our staff pick for elbow. And then we actually made a staff pick sticker. And when you click on that product, we say this one is the staff pick for elbows. We have an elbow page, and we say this one's the staff, because you can pick any one of the 8. And we're not telling you have to pick one, but we're guiding you to the one we think is best.
Yep.
Right? And it was easy. Well, it wasn't easy. It was work to do that. Now for you, with drivers, you got 20 different options. You could have some concepts if you bucketize them on good, better, best, and then you give your recommendation on each one of those 3 buckets or something like that. And then you might not make that as a collection page. You might make that as a page that you manually lay all that information out, maybe sub-collections for good, better, and best, and those kind of things. And that takes some work to put that together. But then what you've done is you've taken a list of products and turned it into a decision-making engine.
Yep.
And guarantee you, of your 50 competitors, if you're lucky, if you're unlucky, 2 of them are doing it. I doubt even one of them is doing that today, right? Because it is more work. And that's the fortunate thing with you being so focused on just one area, golf, right? Because you mentioned before, a lot of your competitors have a broader set of products as they're more sporting goods and those kind of things. They're never going to get to that level of information in golf. But because you're so focused, you can actually spend the time and energy and get to that level of information and incorporate that into your shopping experience. Right? Now, you probably don't need to do that for golf shirts, but you can figure out which categories people are getting confused on and need the most help on, and put that in there. Another thing you could think about doing there is, having trouble making choices. Then you could have a little promo that says having trouble making a choice, and take them off to other content you have if there's even deeper content. Or what a lot of my clients do, who are like you're trying to say you want to be, is that personal experience. Contact us. Right now, I'm not a fan of a contact us front and center, but I am a fan of a contact us as a exit out. Before you leave the site, you're still not finding what you're looking for. And I'm not saying an exit intent pop-up like in Klaviyo, but at the bottom of your collection page or at the middle of your product page, having trouble making a decision, give us a call or that kind of thing. I also have clients who will even say, have a, Calendly booking thing, like how you book time with me for this conversation, right? Just, they have their own calendar posted, and clients can come in and book a spot, 15-minute spot on their calendar, and actually do, a session like this where they're talking back and forth about the pros and cons of this golf club and that golf club, And I don't know if you have the staff and the time to do that, but those are some things to think about. I think you want to give as much information to help them make the decision, and then to prove that you're friendly and it's still an expert. You could add to that once you already have that decision-making content on the site. Then you can add the still confused, still want help, give us a call. My only point is, don't start off with the give us a call. You got to do the hard work first. Because otherwise, the way customers look at that is you haven't proven that you're friendly or an expert if you're not giving that advice on the website, right? It's really easy to say, give us a call. And then, what'll happen is, customers will be hesitant to call because you haven't established trust with them yet, that you know what you're talking about. And they're just afraid that, I'm just going to get some, heavy-handed salesperson on the phone call who's trying to force me to buy something, right? So you got to establish that trust before you can actually have people take action on that give us a call to action.
Yeah.
That all making sense so far?
Absolutely.
All right. So we talked about product pages. We talked about collection pages. We talked about a list of collection pages at the top of that nav experience. Now we're going to talk about the home page. And on your home page, so this is a great example in summary of everything we've talked about, is there's nothing here that establishes trust with me yet. Maybe nothing's an exaggeration, but I don't think so. All right. So I didn't critique your colors before. I'm not a fan of your blue and teal color scheme. And I don't know why. It doesn't seem right to me that this is golf. It doesn't say golf, right? Golf to me is green, yellow for the sun, blue for the sky. I'm outdoors. This is very cold. It's not very warm. And I'm not saying you need to change your colors right now, but it's just like, when I come here, this doesn't seem like an authentic golf website. And one of those things, just one of the things, is the color scheme, right?
Yeah.
Somebody picked some trendy colors for 2022 or whenever this theme was made, and without thinking about how that applies to this brand and to this business, right? Is there a reason you picked this purple and teal?
I just wanted an updated logo. The previous logo was pretty old, and I thought pretty average. So I just outsourced the logo design. And then
where'd you outsource it to?
Via Google. So it wasn't like off Fiverr or freelance or anything like that. It was a design agency. And to be honest, when we did it, we're pretty price conscious of it as well.
Yep. It cost you $100 probably?
Maybe a touch more.
Okay.
Not a lot more, but yeah, well, it wasn't mega expensive, but yeah, we're looking at it now and just thinking more like this session's been awesome, but just thinking about the brand and all those types of things. Like I actually was a little while ago when we were talking about brand and what our brand means and who we are. I'm like, purple and green doesn't really do it, does it? So
no, not at all. Right. Not at all. And it's funny that I said a minute ago, the trendy colors of 2022, and that's exactly what happened, right? You got a cheap, and I'm not saying cheap in a bad way. I've gotten many logos from those types of companies, right? There's nothing wrong with them. But I would not say that one of the services they provide is really understanding your brand and incorporating what colors would resonate for your brand very well, right? So I would keep your exact same logo and just change your color scheme out.
Yeah, we definitely didn't have the conversation about, who are you, what do you do, what do you stand for, type thing. It was just, go away, give us a design, and the options weren't around color. It was around the font and the actual icon itself. Yeah.
And like, I'm not a branding expert at all, but I would start off with, some greens, yellows, and blues, and, outdoor, bright and sunny is the vibe that I want to get, right? Not this cold, these colors here. But so that's the first thing, on this homepage here, I'm not feeling confident. I'm not getting trust on this brand. Now, you do have some social links, and those are, usually good to start, trusting. I'm going to click on your Instagram one, and the first thing I want to see is the most recent photo that you put up, which was 5 days ago. So that's not so bad, right? So that to me means there's somebody alive, and I mean that as minimally as that. And you got some April stuff in there. So this here, now this photo here has nothing to do with your brand.
Looking at that now, that was an error.
Yeah,
that was me trying to create a story on the desktop, and I've stuffed it up.
Well, I don't even know how to create a story, so you're way ahead of me on that. I look at those story things on Instagram, like, I don't know how to do that. But what you could do, right, is you could add an Instagram feed to your homepage. There's a free app. I forget which one it is. I think I've mentioned it before. And just, so that just shows that there's, I call it a heartbeat, that there's actually somebody was alive at this store at least 5 days ago when the last thing got posted. And that gives somebody a little bit of confidence. Yeah. I like the fact you have reviews on the homepage. But what I like to see in, you talked before about carousels. I hate carousels. I don't think anybody ever looks at them except for store staff, right? Nobody's going to scroll through them all and that kind of stuff. But what I do like is at this very top thing, putting a full page, full width banner that is your brand. And remember when I asked you early on, what is your elevator pitch? What I like people to do is literally get it down to less than 10 words, less than 8 if they can. What is your differentiator? Why should somebody be on this site, right? And that could be something like, the best deals for golfers in Australia. Now, you're not trying to be the cheapest price, but if you were trying to be, that's what your pitch would be, right? It could be, golf accessories from golf pros, or, for Australian golfers by Australian golfers, or, the best advice and products available in Australia, right? And I would actually put Australia in your thing, because nowhere on this homepage are we saying we're just for Australians. Yeah. And in fact, if we go to your footer, you actually have your settings set up that you take every country in the world. I would go into your shipping settings and turn off all your countries except for Australia, unless you want to ship to others. Like if you want to do New Zealand or UK or that's fine, but I would not have them all on. You're shipping, anybody in the world right now can buy it from your store, and I would turn that off. No one's ever going to, right? You'd be lucky if someone from United Arab, Emirates came in and bought from you. It's not going to happen, but just turn it off just in case it does, because you don't know what you have to do for export duties, if you have rights to ship, all that kind of stuff. Reduce that hassle, and you just are in Australia, in Australian dollars, right? Because right now you got lots of currencies and lots of countries, and it makes it seem like this is this global thing, but it's not, right? And I believe in focusing, right? If you're just going to be for Australia, put that right in that banner image, and that banner image, might be a golf party, with the Sydney Opera House in the background or something. If there's a golf course, you can shoot with that in the background, whatever. The people look at that and go, that's Australia, right? You might have the word Australia in that message, but that banner image, I would make that your differentiator. You're not selling product. You're establishing trust in that image. And most people try to sell product first and foremost on the homepage. And I think that's a big mistake for a number of reasons, right? And one of them is you haven't established trust yet. The other one is too many people think about their homepage as the front door to their store. And the reality is on the web, every single page is a front door to the store. So your most important merchandising needs to be in your header, not in your homepage. So your homepage, you would have this "You Are Here" map, right? That says you're here because we give the best whatever. We have the best service. We're the friendliest. We ship the quickest. We're the cheapest. Whatever your differentiator is, you're going to talk about that there. Now, you do have this really good piece of merchandising, which you mentioned already, the new arrivals, right? And that's on your homepage. And I like new, right? But if it's important enough to be on your homepage, why isn't it in your navigation?
Yep.
And I would put a new, right? You also might want another category called closeouts. Do you stock all your product?
Yes, we do. Yeah. Yep.
Do you have closeouts?
We do. The reason why there's no new and no sort of like closeout / clearance section is I was conscious of that nav being too busy. So yeah. What I'm thinking of doing is sort of collapsing some of them or fold like bags and buggies, rolling that under each other. Or
absolutely, it's same thing with shoes and clothing can be combined, right? And gloves can go under clothing also. Grips can go under. Yeah. So if you have closeouts, and I only say that if you have them, because I have some clients who do a fabulous business with their closeouts.
Yeah.
I have one client and they make their own products and all their whatever you call factory rejects, they sell them. And people come just for the factory rejects, and they do a fabulous business with them. They're selling out all the time. So new and closeout are great, merchandising tools. Put them in your, like I said before, if it's on the homepage, it should also be in the main nav if it's that important for everybody to see, kind of thing. And then, what are you trying to do with your blog here right now?
So at the moment, and this is one of the things that gets neglected just due to time. Basically, what we try to do each week is just put out the main tournaments of the weekend. Just try to put out a preview of the course and who what type of golfer would go well at that course, and then just basically trying to predict the winner really, and give people some information on what if they're watching on TV or showing an interest in the tournament. What to look for, what we've got some course stats there and some key correlation events. Just looking at the course itself, who we think will go well, and a few key points to look out for when you're watching on TV.
How do you distribute this to your customers?
I don't email them because I'm sort of just a bit conscious of unsubscribes.
Any unsubscribe you get for too many emails, you should thank them because they're not your customer.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of unsubscribes, right?
Yeah.
And just thank them. Thank you for unsubscribing because I'm wasting your time because I'm here to give you information. If you don't want that information, then this is not a good relationship, right? Yeah. Now, here's the thing is you spend time and energy every week making this content, right?
Yeah.
And you don't distribute it through email.
No.
So the only people that find it are people that come to your homepage and see it on the homepage.
Or we put it on socials.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, if I was you, I would switch the strategy a little bit. So I like the content creation strategy. And I like the fact that it's golf focused. And I actually think it's pretty cool. But you have such limited resources. I'd rather see you make a piece of content that is relevant next year also. Or 3 months from now, right? Yes. I'd rather see you put out 1 article per month instead of 4 articles per month, and have that be, how to pick the best golf clubs, 3 things why iron wedges are a thing of the past and it's all about aluminum in the future, right? All that type of content, and let's call it evergreen content. Yep. I'd rather your blogs be content that's more evergreen because you can only, you don't have an unlimited staff making you content. Yeah. If you were a big company, this stuff would be fantastic. You'd have a person dedicated to this, right? But you're not a big company. You don't have a person dedicated to this. So make your blog content evergreen, not it's only good for a week and then it's out of date. And that way you get an SEO benefit from it forever, right? Like I get traffic to my website, jadepuma.com, that I wrote in 2014, and it still generates traffic for me. And you never know what content you create that's going to generate traffic. And that's why the more you put against, more spaghetti you throw against the wall, you see what sticks kind of stuff. Just keep putting out, evergreen content, and it'll return traffic to you forever. It's beautiful how it works. Now going back to your homepage, right? I'm not a fan of, blog content on the homepage because, like I said, that's meant to drive people to your store. Now, you do have some nice logos on your homepage, and I'm a fan of logos because they provide social proof or street cred, right? So some logos are press, logos. Others are, professional reviews and that kind of stuff. Are these logos, what are they meant to be?
They're some of the brands that we stock.
So this is a shop by brand section.
Heading there. That must have dropped off.
Yep. So there's no heading that says shop by brand, right? And only a few of them are clickable, right? The Callaway one is not clickable.
That's a work in progress.
Okay. So, but if shop by brand is that important, once again, that becomes the top level nav element, right? And you would have that go to a page. Shop by brand goes to a page, and then that page shows all the logos. And they could say, oh, I want to look at Puma. And then they see all the Puma products underneath that, right? And the nice thing about that is we don't know how people are shopping, right? Do they want to start a search by brand? Do they want to start a search by price? Do they want to start a search by product category? And the more of those ways that you give them, the more you can learn about how they shop, right? Right now, everything is by product type, clothing, clubs, buggies, where if you add other ones in, new, closeout, shop by brand, shop by price, then you can start seeing what's important to people. All right, we have been talking for quite a bit of time. Let's start wrapping up. What sort of questions do you have after we've been talking for this long?
I've got a bunch of such good information, so thank you for that. I guess my thoughts coming in were going to be that we look at it lower level. So this has been awesome. So I probably would park any question I had because there's so much info in this, and there's so many things that I can do now to give immediate impact rather than sort of, like I was looking at things like, filtering and just like little, like on that the top nav there, how to make that into a mega nav that's actually a bit easier. Like I was just sort of struggling with a few bits within the Flex itself. So bits and pieces like that were things I was thinking we might cover, but that's good that we haven't covered that because we've covered so much more that's beneficial.
Yeah, if I was to summarize the feedback, I think what you need to do is determine what your differentiator is going to be.
Yep.
And my guess is it's going to be service and content, right?
Yeah.
And then start building out your experience based on that, right? And none of that is easy, right? It's very content heavy, and content is hard, but that's why nobody else does it. It's because it's so hard. And the few people that do create content around their brand and their products, those are the ones that are successful long-term and build big brands, right? The people that create their own photography, write their own product descriptions, and have their own, and come up with staff picks and all that kind of stuff. Those are the ones that rise above. And that's like I said, that's why it's hard, because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it already.
Yep.
All right. If that's all, then I thank you for your time today. This was
awesome. Thanks, mate. I'll get back in touch. Like I'd sort of like to, look at using your services. So definitely keen to sort of see how that was. Yep.
We are always here. Love helping small stores.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks so much for your time, Scott. It's been fantastic.
Thank you.